I'll tell you when we live. We are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Angie's World Podcast. Today, I have a special guest in the building joining me for season 2. All right. Not only is he a rapper, he's an activist, he's an author, he's a teacher, he's a journalist. The list goes on and on and on. He's super amazing. His name is Mysonne, and he's here in the building with me today.
Yes, I am. How you doing, Ange?
What's up, my son? Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be able to grace your wonderful show.
Thank you so much. It's been a minute
Yeah.
since we've spoke or anything. It's been a long time. So how are you doing? How's your new year?
New Year so far so good. I've just been manifesting everything. My goal is I say this is the Jordan year, and Jordan was one of the best finishers in the game to me. So I just want to finish everything that I start. I want to be intentional about going all the way through and finishing up all of my projects. I'm always somebody who's innovative and thinking and coming up with ideas, but I have a problem with just finishing all of the things, especially by myself.
Right.
That's the thing I want to do is just like depend more on myself to finish things, because a lot of times everybody, you include people in your ideas and your dreams and all these things, and people
Right.
don't have time. It's not really their dream, it's not their idea, so they don't have the same energy
Right.
that you have to
That's so
bring
true.
fruition. So my goal is now, whatever I see, whatever idea I have, whatever I want to do, I'm going to do it despite whatever anybody
Don't
else.
wait for nobody.
Right. That's right.
Don't wait for nobody. Just power through. And you are doing a lot of things, which we're going to get into later in the conversation. Man, listen, like I wanted to have you on this podcast because what I've been saying with my podcast from the very beginning, I want to uplift, empower, and inspire people. That is my whole reason for, doing what I do and using my platform. And mostly everybody that has been on my platform has some sort of story that, does one of those three things: empower, uplifts, inspires, and does all three. And you're definitely a person that I felt like would be, perfect to have on this podcast. So I'm so glad that you agreed to do it. If you see me like this, I'm looking at my notes over here, y'all. So I like to have my stuff together. Yeah, like I said, absolutely. I got a lot of pages too, y'all, about 7 of them. He did a lot in his career. Nah, your story is really incredible. Like, you beat the odds. You know what I'm saying? And the work that you're doing in the community is so amazing. But I feel like you didn't stay with the victim mentality. You always give back. There's so many things that I want to get into with you, but I want the people who are listening to the pod now that might not really know you, I kind of want to start from the beginning, if you don't mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, young Mysonne, you was born and raised in the Bronx. Highbridge, right?
Man, hybrid by way of Soundview and Castle Hill. My grandmother lived in Soundview and Castle Hill. My mother lived in Highbridge, so the majority of my life I was between both of those areas.
Yes, shout out to the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx too, so big Bronx. And something that I found out about you when I was, doing my research, I didn't know that you played ball.
Yeah.
So you played ball when you was coming up, and this was before rap. This is high school or like junior high?
Yeah, junior. I started in junior high school, and then I played in high school.
And did you have dreams of being a ball player?
Oh yeah, listen. I was gonna be Magic Johnson. Man. I had great. I used to play. I was pretty good. Like especially in the Highbridge area, I would say I was in the top 5 players in our area at that time. Maybe the top 3. Of the people who played in our area. I was into basketball really heavy.
And I heard you was mentored by some of the greats too. You
Yeah,
played in Rucker Park.
I played in Rucker. Steph is a good friend of mine. Shane was a good friend of mine. Um, you know, Even after that, I had a lot of influence. A lot of the '90s in that era, the early '90s, late '90s era. I was around most of the ballers.
I think that's probably something people might not know that you play ball. I feel like you probably don't talk about that a lot, maybe.
I
I don't
don't,
know.
but I think most people from New York know it. You know,
Right.
especially a lot of the in our era. You know, a lot of the like Cam and Mason, all of them. I met them. I met Cam when he used to go to Manhattan Center, and I used to go to Martin Luther King, and we used to play ball against each other early then. So those was way back then. A lot of the rappers I met Mace in King locker room. You
And
know,
they play ball too, Cam and Mace, right?
Rap Kevin Mace played. You know, I met them at games, at homecoming games that we would have. You know, I would meet them.
Y'all was real youngins coming up playing ball. And you you majored in criminal justice. You went to college for a little while and majored in criminal justice, which is so crazy and full circle because look at the work that you're doing now.
Pretty
Tell
much.
me a little bit about that criminal justice, like why you wanted to major. Did you always just feel drawn to making a change or just being in politics? How was that process when you picked your major like?
Well, I wanted to be first. I wanted to be the president when I was young. That was the first thing, and then I wanted to be a lawyer. Like I really wanted to be a defense attorney. I wanted to get people free. You know, I always had this kind of like hero mentality. Even when I was young,
Mhm.
I used to protect the kids against the bullies. You know, I was the one that was like, "No, you're not gonna pick on them." You know, even in the teachers would come get me to protect the kids against the bullies. Like, yo, this guy's a bully. He's bullying us. You know,
Right.
it's always, who I was. And then I said I wanted to be a really big. Excuse me. I wanted to be a defense attorney. I really just didn't. I hated jail. You know, I guess growing up, my father was incarcerated when I was young a few times for things that he was innocent for. So he was.
Mhm.
I would hear him calling home, and my mother crying, and him being locked up, and then him coming home like a year later,
Mhm.
and just being happy that he was home. And then I was like, dang, I don't want people to lose their fathers. I don't want people being in jail. The system is crooked.
Right.
I wanted to fight against it. And then I went to John Jay College in Manhattan for a year, until I just changed my direction.
So did you change your direction to music because the late 90s is when you got into hip hop, right? Well, you probably was into hip hop before, but like taking it serious rapping.
Yeah, I was. I got into. That's when I got into hip hop probably like 90. I want to say 93. That's when I started. 92, 93 was when I just started.
Same for me too.
And then I mean as an artist, but I always was in hip hop. Like I had my first album was EPMD's album. Then I had Big Daddy Kane's first album. So I was young,
Tapped in.
tapped in the '80s. But in early '90s when I started dibbling dabbling when I got in high school, and then right around 96, 97 is when I started getting more serious. Kids from the area, dudes from the area, we formed little rap groups.
Mhm.
Friend built a studio in his house, and we started recording things. So it was a lot more serious. And then when Chi Ali was one of my best friends, so he was like one of the first child hip hop artists. So we was 16 and 17. I was like, look, I want to follow in that path. Going on tour and going to shows with him and Black Sheep and
Right.
just that energy. I wanted to be around that.
And for the love of the music, because you're good at it too. It's not like an artist nowadays that could just look at all the money and be like, I don't even care about rapping. I just want to get this bag. Like at that time, you was coming in the game, like people were coming in the game in the late 90s, but there wasn't that much money like that the way it is now. The way that the artists are the artists are profiting now from the work of the backs from the 80s and early 90s to maybe mid to late 90s. So you wanting to get in a game and rhyme, and it also mattered about talent then too, because you couldn't be whack rhyming back then.
Yeah, you had to be
Yes,
nice. It
you
was
had to be nice.
you was battling the kid who was nice from the next block.
Right.
was
Ciphers.
ciphers. You was going downtown.
You had to be outside.
You had to.
You had to.
You had to go
And
to
make a
every
name for
block party,
yourself.
every jam, every block party, every cipher, and you had to rhyme.
Absolutely. So now you, all right. So did you have any other stage names before Mysonne?
Chosen. Chosen was my first stage.
Chosen. That sounds like something you would pick for yourself. Sounds kind of
Chosen was,
prolific a little bit.
then my name is my song. Like that's my God given name.
I wanted to ask you about that name because it's a unique name. I've never heard of that name before you. How did you get named Mysonne? How'd your mom pick that name?
My mom and dad, were, I don't know. I think they just wanted to say my son. You know,
That's what I was thinking. I was gonna
and it
say,
was
is
like,
it
how do
another
we
way of
say?
saying my son?
My father told me, "Oh, your name means the master of youth," and it was an acronym, and each letter meant something different. But I think
Right.
it really sat there. It was like, "This is gonna be my son," and we
Mysonne.
son. So,
It's
but
dope. It's unique.
it was
It's
very,
definitely unique.
as when you're young, unique is not good. Excuse me. When you're young, unique is really not the good thing. You want to be James. You want to be,
Yeah.
you know. So everybody makes fun, like, where you get that stupid name from? Nobody's name is that. And then as you get older, you realize that you were rare and you were special.
Right.
Now I hear kids named after me. Like I've
Yeah.
kid, and I was like, there was never nobody named my son when I was ever. So
Right.
you just see how it transcends, and that's how I started rapping. One of my, I think I don't know who it was. Somebody's like, "Yeah, just your name is dope. You should just leave your name."
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Wow, okay."
Beyonce said that about her name too. She hated it growing up because it was so different and people made fun of it. But look at her now, like the one and only Beyonce, and so many people are being named after her now. So many little girls. So yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, my son's definitely unique and dope. And so you started taking rap serious. You battled DMX, Shine, Big L. The list goes on. Like you was really moving in music. And I want to talk about how you landed the deal with Def Jam, right?
hmm
You must have been how old, like super young when that happened.
I was between 19 and 20.
Now I remember how my mindset at 19 and 20. And if I would and listen, Def Jam was a big deal. If I would have been signed to Def Jam as an artist, you wouldn't have been able to tell me nothing. How was your mindset back then when you got signed? Were you like, all right, this is it? Like, I made it.
Well, yeah, when you're young, you come from poverty, and you trying to figure out how you're gonna get out, and you get this opportunity, you know,
Right.
and you like, wow, like I'm actually about to get a record deal, and you
Yeah.
all these things. So it was kind of bittersweet because soon as I got signed, I got locked up.
That's exactly where I was going next. See, you took me right there.
It was kind of bittersweet. It was like one minute I'm like, wow, I just got $1 million record deal. I'm about to put this album out. I'm in the studio with the greats. I'm in the studio with Busta, Pun.
Yep.
I remember sitting there watching Pun. I was like,
Rest in peace, the greatest, one of the top
man,
five, in my opinion. Big Pun.
I was just in the studio listening to him do. I forgot what record it was, but I was like, wow. Then I was in the studio with Busta, and then I was in the studio with the Locks.
Right. You was here. You was there. Like you was in the building. You knew, like,
Did songs with DMX. So one minute you like, wow, you with the elite. And then
right. And then it all comes crashing down because you got convicted of 2 counts of armed robbery, right? And you had to wind up doing 7 years, which one of them wasn't even you. And then the other one, other people did something to incite a fight, which you didn't even start. But since you were involved in the altercation, you wound up getting mixed up in it and having to pay the price for that. And then the other thing, it wasn't even like you who did the other situation.
yeah, it was just it was unfortunate. It
And
was
unfair.
yeah, it was unfortunate and unfair. Having no prior record, no prior anything, in your first situation, you had to excuse me, get sentenced to 7 to 14 years, which means you do a minimum of 7,
Right.
maximum of 14 years. Um, by the grace of God, I was allotted to be free on my first parole visit. After 7 years, they freed me, but it was a long 7 years.
And at first they offered you a year, right? But you didn't want to take it because you didn't do nothing.
Yeah, they like, we give you a year, and I'm like, I'm not going to jail for no year for no robbing nobody that I didn't rob. Like, that
Right.
makes sense. Like, why would I go to? Especially you look thinking to yourself, I don't got a year. I just got this record deal right now. I want to get, like, I'm about to be a millionaire. You talking about do a year in jail for what?
Right.
You know.
And then the second situation, it wasn't even you. Like, people don't even realize, like, 25, just like 25 years ago, like, it's hard for Black men now in society. But 25 years ago, or when this happened with you in the late 90s, early 2000s, they was throwing a book. They was throwing a book at Black men, trying to put y'all under the jail for years. You know what I'm saying? And you're young. You're like, if you think back at it now, 19, 20, that's like a teenager, young adult. Like, you don't have the like wisdom that you have now and all of the things that you know now to even fight something like that back then. So it's kind of one of those things where it happened and it was super unfair. Um, and then you had to wind up doing 7 years because you went to trial and then in blue trial, and so they gave you the 7 years. Did
Yeah.
they tell you 14 and you got out in 7?
No, it's so it is a what you call it, an undetermined sentence. So it starts out, you do a minimum of 7, and then you can do a maximum of 14. So what happens?
Depending on your behavior, right?
Yeah, so 7 years, you go to the parole board. They look it over your criminal history, look over your records, what you've been doing, and then they decide whether they give you another 1 or 2 years, or you can go home.
Right.
So they can do that up until 14 years.
That's crazy. Um Now, like we said before, you had at the brink of dropping an album that was gonna change your life. You were signed to a huge record label, and then something like this happens. What I want to know is how did you stay so positive? Like, what did you do during those 7 years first? Before, how did you stay so positive? When you went in, like, what was your plan? What were you
I
thinking?
think at first it was hard. It was hard just coming off the streets from just coming from Miami at the Super Bowl to next thing you know, you lost.
Eating oodles and noodles out
Yeah.
of a freaking cot.
So it
Like,
was it wasn't even real to me. It was like, this can't really
yeah,
happen. It was like, at first you question God. You're like, God, you trying to tell me you give me $1 million record deal, it would change my life and everything.
right.
Now I'm sitting in the cell, sentenced to 7 to 14 years. Like, this don't even make sense for shit
Mm-hmm.
that I do. It's like it wasn't even real. It's like, this can't be serious. So, you go through that, and then I just, one day I just woke up and said, man, you know, nothing is gonna change. So the reality is, I have to be a better me than I was when I came in here. You,
Right.
the system failed me, but the system only beats me if I allow myself to fall apart in here. If I don't learn something, if I don't grow, if I don't evolve as an individual, as a man, every day I'm in here, then the system beats me. So that was one.
Right.
I exercised, I read books, I drew up, plans of what I wanted to do. I wrote rhymes, I did everything to keep my mind just constantly elevating. I learned new words every day. One of my things was I wanted to learn a new word every day. Every day learn a new word and put added to your vocabulary. Learn something new, find a new
Yeah.
how to do accounting. I learned how to do so many different things. I utilized every minute of that 7 years for me to grow as a man. So that was how I coped. It was like, I'm not gonna adapt to prison. I'm gonna make prison adapt to me. I'm not
You,
I
you
don't
knew you was better than that.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't gonna fit into that.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't gonna define me. It was something I had to go through, but it wasn't where I belong,
Right.
and it wasn't something that I was gonna allow to define me.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Um, to remember your why while you're in there and stay, this is why I'm staying focused and I'm doing this, because you already knew you had that long vision. Like, I'm gonna get, I'm gonna better myself in these 7 years, because when I get out, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna allow this to, I'm gonna beat the odds. I'm not gonna be a statistic, because society wanted you to be a statistic and they threw the book at you, and you could have, anything could have happened to you in there. You could have became a gang member in there. You could have got addicted to substance abuse in there. It could have been like they set you up for it to go that way, and you didn't. So you definitely, I want to give you flowers for that, for really staying focused and remembering your why while you were in there and coming out. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because I wanted to know before you, looking back at that 7 years, what's one thing that you can say that you learned in there?
Mm. What I learned is that everybody in jail is not a criminal, right? I learned that
Right.
everybody in jail, they are some of the most smartest, humblest, intelligent, talented individuals that you will ever meet.
They're human. They're human. They're
They,
people.
people give you this stigma, oh, you're a criminal, you're in jail, and you think
Right.
everybody in jail is just
A piece of crap.
yeah. And I learned so much from brothers in prison, man. They taught me about discipline. They taught me about, you know, about being humble. Their whole situation really just humbled me, and it made
Right.
me want to be a voice. They put a calling on me. They put a charge on me to come home and change the narrative, right? And to
Yes.
educate these young kids. They like, there's brothers in there that never coming home. That
Right.
first crime they ever committed, they ended up killing somebody in in the heat of the moment, and something,
Right.
and, they made a mistake at 15, 16 years old, some 17, sentenced to life. And just watching them at 40 or 50, just seeing how they've grown as men, and how they were fully rehabilitated, and knowing if they had got into society would have been better. And
Right.
these people need to be in the world, because we don't have people like this that have this level of knowledge, understanding, that want to do better. We don't have that. So they always said, brother, I'm not going home, but
Right.
you are. So I want you to, and I was always a person that listened. Wasn't hard headed. I always wanted to learn. So they always was giving me jewels, and I was always taking them, absorb.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest things that I learned. And I learned, that that the system is not designed for rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not designed for that. Is designed for people to return. You know,
Absolutely.
it's strictly designed for that. It's things that they do. They breed comfortability for somebody who doesn't have to do. If you take a kid and put him in prison at 16 to 17 before he's ever had to do anything on his own,
Institutionalize them.
right? Yeah, and then you give him a meal, a bed, and this and that, and then you put him in society and tell him that he has to fend for self, and he
No independent living skills at all.
at all. He doesn't even understand what that is. So he's trying to figure it out, but things have been handed to him so much it becomes frustrating, and then you find yourself in this crime mentality because you want to get everything fast.
Yeah.
You've been watching the world through social media. You come out here, you want to live the life that you see,
Yeah.
and it's not realistic. And what happens is you find yourself resorting back to your comfort zone, especially if you was doing crime, you resort back to that. You
Right.
and then which ultimately lands you right back where you came from. It was guys
Absolutely.
come in and out of jail 3 times on my 7-year bid. They did 20, come home, do 1 year, go back, come back for 2 years. The next thing they come back with a fresh 10. And I'm like,
It's
wow.
like a career. I trust me, I understand. I Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. I have people in my family that it's a cycle. I think besides the homeless population and the substance abuse population, the prison population is one of the most vulnerable ones besides, like I said, homeless and substance abuse. And
Yeah.
unless you're within that population, work in that population, or see how they're treated, the stigmas, how the organizations that are there supposedly to help keeps them oppressed. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where it's just like you can't do nothing but want to help after you see something like that. You know what I mean? In those populations. So it's amazing the work that you're doing. So you come out, um, and what changed for you when you came out? So after the 7 years, you said, what did you say you wanted to do first? Did you want to focus on music? Did you want to go into the, social activism? What direction? How, like, what
Well,
changed for you?
I came home wanting to do music. I just wanted to have a different approach to it.
Like a different message?
Yeah, I wanted my message to still be based in the street, but I wanted to be more reality based. You
Yeah.
I wanted to tell a story, so I understood marketing. I understood what people expected from me. I understood, I was a hardcore rapper, so I had to give you that, but I had to add what I needed to add. It's like putting the cherry in the medicine.
Yeah.
You got to make it taste a little good. So my message was still based on the realities of the streets, but it was just evolving into way more dropping jewels and trying to change the mentality. How do we grow and what I've learned and teaching you things that I've learned, you know. So that was the mind state that I came home with as I started to create music.
And it seems like when you came out, you were embraced and people definitely, welcomed you back after you came out. But it was probably hard to get that momentum again going, I'm assuming. You know what I'm saying? I'm not
It,
sure.
it
How
was
was
it
it for
was a
you?
different era. Like, when
Yeah.
I watch how, Remy came, Bobby Smurd, like I'm watching that type of return home. It was different because we didn't have social media.
Yeah.
We had MySpace, but it wasn't like it is now.
No.
So it
Mm-mm.
was the level of anticipation. I had a lot of love throughout the industry, and a lot of people, I unfortunately I never released the album before I went to jail. So I just was on the Rough Rider soundtrack, and I had a verse that everybody loved.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the Violator soundtrack. I was on DMX, so there were songs,
And
but
Mace's album too.
yeah, but the reality of the situation is I never did a video.
Yeah.
So there was never like a face to put with the
Yeah.
work that I did. So people were like, "Oh, I like him," but there was never the same.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I was one of those
Because
individuals.
all you had was videos back then or magazines to connect with the artist. It was not an online thing. Yeah.
So most of the time, the people see me first in the source was when I was locked up, and I did a hip hop quotable that I wrote from jail. So people
Mm-hmm.
had never had a face to put with any of my
Yeah.
verses. Did none of those things. So I feel in that regard I was robbed to where I never got that actual chance. So
Right.
it wasn't a chance to just build up. So it was love. There was love there. And then there was contractual things that I was dealing with. So
Right.
it was just hard. It was just hard.
Yeah.
Just trying to gain momentum back when when you're known by people within the
Right.
but you haven't been put in the light of the world.
Right. And then the people that started with you had a head start of 7 years to continue their career. And then you're coming out trying to play catch up here. You know what I'm saying? And get used to a whole new like music industry, basically. So that definitely had to be challenging for sure.
It was very challenging. It was even frustrating at times. And
Mm-hmm.
home on parole where I was having opportunities and different artists and producers wanted me to come to LA and Miami
Yeah.
out here and the parole officer wouldn't allow me to do it.
That's what Remy was speaking about, those challenges too, or having a curfew or having to ask to go here and get permission to go there. It's like you're at the mercy of other people and they can definitely hate on you, take advantage, be jealous, to just be a dick about it and not let you do these things.
Yep, that's
So
pretty much how it was for me, So I had to overcome surmountable odds and
Absolutely.
so it just became harder and harder. And as you move in this industry, it's finicky. Like 1 minute
Hmm.
they love you, the next minute, all right, we're going into that's over. Let's go to the next thing. So
Right. Their attention span is very short, and then people are just jumping on what's hot. They don't even care. This is hot, I'm jumping on this. This is hot, I'm jumping on that. So nah, I understand that for sure. Let's talk a little bit about your social activism, right? I want you to talk about that because I feel like you're probably one of the top spokespeople for hip hop, right? I also personally think that your activism is not appreciated enough. People need to really recognize what this man does. Like, you step up for the people, you show up, you stand up, like you're constantly showing up, you know what I'm saying, when other people aren't. So I just want to give you your flowers about that. And you call out misogyny and the promotion of drugs and gangs and hip hop. Like, you want to call stuff out as you see it and speak against these issues. So talk a little bit about the, I guess, the social activism that you do. You do so much, but talk a little bit about that.
well, yes, I'm a co-founder of an organization called Until Freedom, along with Tamika Mallory, Angelo Pinto, and Linda Sarso, who are also my co-founders. We've been doing this work. I've been doing this work for over a decade, and they've been doing it. Tamika and Linda have been doing it for about almost 30 years now. They
Mm-hmm.
came in as very young teenagers and just started doing this work. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they embraced me. Tamika's seen she has seen a video that I did for Trayvon Martin, called "What Do I Say to My Sons," and she felt that it was just so powerful. And she was, good friends with Trayvon's mother, who she introduced me to. And then that year, I ended up going to Trayvon's mother's conference
Mm-hmm.
and speaking at her conference and becoming really good friends with her. Now we do her conference every year, and just I just wanted, I think my first entrance into it was really just when Eric Gardner got killed. I was working with Harry Belafonte's organization, the Gathering for Justice, with my sister Carmen Perez, who is the executive director there, and we were working in detention centers, and I was dealing with at-risk youth, so giving them alternative to violence, showing them how to make music, as a way of an alternative to violence, how to put that emotion
Yes.
into songs and lyrical so where it doesn't turn into something that's physical. So
Right.
that was the work I was doing then, and I remember clear as day we was in one of those detention centers, and we came out, and they was talking about that the officer who choked Eric Garner wouldn't be indicted, and we called this big rally on 42nd Street, which everybody came out to, and that was the first day that I said, you know what, this is what I'm supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
like work I want to do, and
You
that's
have
how
a passion for it and an authenticity
I
for
felt
it.
like purpose. The purpose created the passion. Like I just kept even when I look at wanting to be a lawyer, always
Right.
to protect people against the bullies, always wanting to be the voice of reason, like all of those things. It just was preparing me for this moment, and it just felt like it was right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you put yourself out there. You've gotten arrested protesting for causes, standing up for something. You led several protests. Like he said before, he mentors incarcerated youth. You give back to the community, you hold turkey drives, and you also you teach courses on hip hop music industry too, right? Is that college, high school, elementary? Talk about that. I think that's dope.
I teach different courses. I teach hip hop courses. I also teach rite of passage courses to young men about what manhood is. You know,
Mm-hmm.
anti-violence courses in different schools. I have curriculum that I've created around that, and also around what I've also taught teachers on how to treat
Mm,
black men. There's a high percentage of young black men that don't graduate high school.
right.
A lot of them, we're at the lowest, and
Right.
and I've had courses where I teach what it is, how to engage young black men and keep them engaged in the educational system. A lot of the curriculum and just the format of school doesn't fit
Mm-hmm.
that we as black men learn. Like we're not stationary learners to where you just sit there in front of a blackboard and you just talk to us. We learn off interaction, we learn off movement, we learn off the world. So
Right.
understanding that, they want to know, how do people like Jay-Z and 50 Cent and all of these artists who've become multi-billionaires and are excellent, you know, entrepreneurs and been able to excel in life, they couldn't get them to stay in school past junior high school and ninth grade.
Nas too. He was like, I
Now,
was bored with school.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like you trying to figure out why isn't our school able to capture some
Right.
of the greatest black minds of this decade, of this, this whole era. And so I have courses on that as well. So I do a lot of teaching with schools.
I
You
love that.
we also do just also have courses where we teach kids how to protest within their rights, right? Like
I
if you
love
see
that.
things going on in your school or whatever it is that you want to have a protest, what are the steps to do that? How do
Right.
you prepare that? How you do, nonviolent and peaceful protests to get, what it is that you want across. So, we do a lot of different things at Until Freedom, and we also deal with police accountability work, and we also do community violence work in which we deal with the shooters and the people who got shot.
Yeah,
So it's so much work that
it
our
is.
organization does, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
That is it's just amazing and so inspiring, and it's God bless you for what you do, because it's definitely, you're dedicating your life to help other people and better other people's lives, and it's very admirable. um I want to talk a little bit about your podcast, Street Politician Pod. These are things like, talk about some of the things that you're doing now. So you have a podcast with Tamika Mallory. You already work with her, and what you were just saying. Now y'all have a podcast together where you push the culture forward, to make the world basically a better place. That's what y'all are doing. You talk about that, social rights issues, pop culture issues. I think the podcast is dope. I've listened to a couple of episodes. It's very engaging. And oh, shout out to Kathleen Trigg too, the producer. She's super dope. Love her. And tell me a little bit about that podcast,
Yeah.
or
So
what you want the people to know about it.
yeah, me and Tamika came up with an idea a couple years ago. We always debate, and we always have issues. We always go back and forth about issues. And we was like, we need to do a podcast. We need to do a podcast. First, it started out with three of us. It was me, her, and Linda. And then Linda started doing. She had, she works with a lot of the Muslim community and the Arab nation community.
Mm-hmm.
So she started doing a podcast on that. So me and Tamika continued on, and then we did it for a couple of years, and then we had did it for a year, and then Kathleen was like, "Hey, let's put it together." And then we did it, and then Charlemagne reached out to us and was like, "Hey, we want to put it on the Black Effect Network." So now it's on iHeart, and it's been doing really good, man. We growing every day, just creating a lane for what it is that we do. We've been coming up with different ideas. We have some great guests, you know,
Yes.
a lot of great guests and a lot of great topics. We introduced a lot of entrepreneurs. That's one of the things we want to do is introduce young black and brown, entrepreneurs and with their products. We've had some really great interviews, man. So I'm proud of our podcast.
Yes. Make sure y'all check it out. Where could they find it? You said iHeart.
Yep, it's
Could
on.
they find it on YouTube?
You can find it on YouTube on iWoman TV. Shout out to Kat Trigg. She has it on there every episode that we've had up to now. Also, we are integrating a new podcast that I started called Sit Downs with the Stand Ups.
You know what?
Look, see,
I love this. You taking me right into the
there
next.
we go. Look at
Taking me right into the
you.
next thing. Look, I don't even have to tell him my segue. I promise we didn't rehearse this. He just, you know what I mean? You just know. Yeah, so let's get into that. Sit down with the stand up podcast. I think that podcast is so entertaining, so amazing. Even though you have two episodes, you got the episode with G Dep and you got the episode with Aaron. He is a former Harlem drug kingpin that turned fashion designer. That episode, amazing. This
Yeah.
concept, it fits you perfectly. And I want you to talk a little bit about this podcast because this I think is gonna
Yeah.
this is gonna
Yeah.
like blow.
Yeah. So the thing was first I just felt like people was interviewing people that I didn't feel needed to be interviewed. It's always based on drama and conflict and who you beefing with and what and I was like, I don't want to see that all the time. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of people that are doing big things and they're not trying to talk about somebody negative and they don't got beef with everybody and it's not
No
controversial.
substance to the
No
story.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's no substance. It's just that, a lot of people, they interviewing people that haven't had anything going in 20, 30 years, but they come back and they rehash beef.
Stories of drama and
beef.
all that.
So I was like, like nobody would care about you if you wasn't talking about this person.
From
So I
20
was
years ago.
20 years ago that ain't even thinking about you. So my mindset was like, you know what? I want to give the voice to people who deserve a voice, and then I wanted to say to the world that people who are formerly incarcerated are productive, right?
Right.
Build a narrative that you going to jail, your life is over, you're a criminal, you can't do things good. That's what people see. Oh, he was in jail, so I don't
Right.
him. He's just negative and it's criminal. And I wanted to dispel that because I know a lot of
Right.
people who are formerly incarcerated who are doing very big things, who come out here and they've excelled. So those are the people I'm looking for. Shout out to Aaron, was one of the first people I did. My brother Tone, who was like my mentor. He was like first before I did G Dep. G Dep's story of him just actually turning himself in
Right.
because his heart
His
and
conscience.
his conscience after he was scot free.
Right.
Then now wanting to come home and utilize that voice to help these
That's so
kids.
amazing.
What I'm saying? That's what I want to highlight. I want to highlight
Right.
people who have moral integrity and moral fiber like that. And then we got Remy. I interviewed Remy, which will be the next episode that'll be coming out. My
Y'all better get
Wallow.
ready.
We're about to interview Wallow for the things. A couple Loon is gonna be on it. Just watching how he transitioned his life from being a bad boy to being, into Islam so heavy. Like when you speak to Loon, his enlightenment into Islam is crazy, and the way he's utilizing his voice and his platform to feed people, to educate people, to just take people to the next. Like those are people I want to celebrate.
Right.
So
Right.
and they're formerly incarcerated. They did their time. They didn't have to tell on nobody. Bobby Smurder is gonna be on too.
Oh, this is gonna be so exciting.
So yeah, so it's gonna be a real. I'm looking forward just to interviewing people that I respect, not
And
just.
this is your lane. Like I feel like this is your lane. Up. I think I lost my song for a second. It went black. It went black, y'all. My song, are you there? Screen just went dark. I hope his phone didn't die or his computer. Let me remove him from here and then see if I could get him back on the stream, y'all. Let's see. Hold on, y'all. Because we got lots more to talk about with my song. Let's see if he can get back in. Let's see, y'all. All right, y'all. I'm gonna have to edit this whole long pause out. All right, let's see if we can get my son back in the studio because he's doing some dope things. You know what I'm saying? I think that the sit down with stand-ups is gonna be a dope concept for my son. Well, it is a dope concept. I feel like it's his lane. I feel like the podcast. Oh, here he goes. Let's bring him back in the building. My son, you back in the building.
I'm sorry, I didn't put it on. I didn't put it on airplane mode. I forgot.
That's
Somebody
okay.
called.
Somebody called you. It's
Yeah.
all good. It's all good. We just keep going. We just keep going. That's all. We was talking about a sit down with the stand-up. She was talking about how Remy's going to be on there, Bobby, how people who have been incarcerated came out and, you're highlighting their life and I'm super excited for this podcast. I think that this is a perfect podcast for you. I feel like it's original. No one else is doing something like this. This is your own lane, so definitely dominate this lane and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yes, man. I look forward to it, man. I really just want to give people who deserve interviews and
Yes.
deserve to be highlighted the opportunities. A lot of people doing real good work, and they've overcome a lot of obstacles to be doing it.
Right.
I want to use my platform to do it.
I love that. So let's go into this real quick. This is super dope. You guys, my son's an author. You wrote a book, a children's book. I know my Bill of Rights book. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so shout out to Hedrick McBride, who is the co-author with me and who's done the production credit. He came to me with the idea. He's like, yo, I think you should do a children's book. I'm like, a children's book? Like, what are you talking about? He said, yeah, I think you should do a children's book. You have a big voice. Keston, you cannot let this, you got to stop it before it blings because it's too much noise. I'm sorry, my son is in here in the microwave doing
That's okay. This is real. Look, this is real life. This is
yeah.
Angie's world. Get comfortable in Angie's world. We be in the kitchen, cooking and
All
all
right.
that.
Sure, just because it's definitely real life around here with these boys. But anyway, so yeah, he came to me with the idea. He said, you have a big voice and a big platform. And, I know you're interested in teaching these kids and teaching them the right way. And you into civil rights. And I think, if you did the first 10 amendments of the Constitution to teach these kids
Right.
what they are, the things that they need to know. And I was like, wow, that's big. He's like,
Yes.
kids walking around, getting pulled over by the cops, having interactions with all types of things, and they don't even know their rights.
Right.
So when he told me the concept, I immediately went, and within a week, the book was done. And, we went straight to it. So shout out to Hedrick for that. And we're working on the second book. The second book is finished. We just in the production part of it, just getting getting the artwork and everything for it. But it's called Raising Kings. And
That's what's up. Tell the
it's
people where they could get that book too. I know my rights, Bill of Rights
oh
book.
yeah,
They can get it on Amazon, right?
you can get it on Amazon. Everybody can get it. It's been a top seller for almost 2 years. It's been one of the top sellers, man. It went up to number one in this category a few times. So yes, it's a book for the whole family. Even though it's a children's book, it's a book that the whole family.
Yes.
Got grown people like, well, I didn't even know that. I didn't know nothing about that. I didn't know, So it's very educational. It's a book that you can sit down with your children. You can enjoy. You can learn from. You can read. The artwork is dope. Everything about it is dope, man. Shout
I
out to
love that. It's definitely a lane where I feel like, people, when you go to school and you learn the Bill of Rights and you learn history and you learn all this kind of stuff, it's like outdated, the curriculum, and boring. But to, you writing this children's book and you're doing it, you're teaching it from like a different standpoint, and then they can like relate to you. And it's just, like you said, it's a family book. It's for adults as well. So you guys are really just out here, putting stuff out that's needed. Like kind of what Styles P did for the hood with the health food. You're bringing the brain food to the hood and worldwide, and that's super dope. Got to give my son the flowers. He's out here fathering everybody.
I'm trying to do my best. Trying to do my best.
I love that. All right. So some things I wanted to get into, right? What is your opinion, right, on the music industry today? You've done freestyles before where you've called out, the like certain rappers promoting, drug rap and dope rap or being on dope and different things like that. You're very vocal kind of about your stance on how you view certain things and how you feel what should be promoted into the youth and what should be promoted to women and how we should conduct ourselves. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
In music. So kind of what is your overall opinion now? Because gangs, the spin the block, the ops, the drill. Tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about that. And the
I,
clout chasing, all that.
I think for me, you know, it's positive and it's negatives, right? I think that what I want to be careful of is not to just completely act like everything is bad, because that's what it is. Oh, drill rap is the problem. The society is the problem. These kids are going
Mm-hmm.
in conditions that are terrible, and they're rapping about conditions. Now, what also makes society bad is that the only artists that they are giving platforms and giving voices and giving money to are the ones who are talking about destroying and killing each other, right?
Right.
Negativity in our community is incentivized. They're giving these kids $1 million deals to talk about the ops that they shot. So
Right.
is you get a 13 or 14-year-old kid to say, wow, the last 5 rappers who got signed was talking about killing, and they actually shot and killed somebody. They got a video. They went to jail. Like, this is how you get out the hood.
Right.
They believe that's the formula. So now they're following the formula that they've seen set by
Glamorized to
that's
them.
glamorized and incentivized. So they're like, okay, this is the formula. This is how I'm gonna get a record deal. I gotta
Right.
shoot somebody. I gotta talk about it. I gotta talk about his dead ops. I gotta
I
make
gotta
a
dig
video.
up the grave and
Yeah,
smoke on the dead
I
op
gotta,
and
I gotta do all this shit. So this is what you telling them is the
to
recipe.
brainwash them.
Yeah, this is what you tell them the recipe is to be successful. So kids are gonna follow the recipe. They don't know no different. They just see the
Right.
best rapper, their famous rapper. Like, no disrespect, but look at K Flock. This is a young kid
Yeah.
who they incentivize all the negativity. Now he's facing federal charges where he can face life in prison, and they
And he's
still
a baby. He's
he's
such
a
a young
baby.
adult.
He's 19 years old.
It's
You
it's
understand?
so
And
heartbreaking
they
when I
incentivize
hear about that.
they've got battle rap over the jail phone. We talk like this is the shit
Right.
they're doing. These kids is literally putting themselves in jail to
Right.
be famous.
Or
You know,
joining gangs
and
to
joining
be
gangs
famous.
because that's what they see the formula to be. So
Right.
I understand that, right? I have more of an issue with the 30 and 40-year olds who capitalizing off that, right?
Right.
Who know that that shit is wrong, and they're not saying, okay, we understand that this is you understand what entertainment is, because we ain't telling, Joe Pesci or one of them not to make Goodfellas, right?
Yeah.
We understand it as entertainment, but so the reality is, how do you separate the entertainment from the reality, right? What you got to do is your voice outside of the music has to be about life, right?
Right.
And that's what I created a campaign called Boycott Black Murder. That's what we want to do. We
Right.
highlight us living. I want to take the biggest trap and drill artists and all of that and say, okay, you got music.
Right.
I want you to come back to these communities that you come from, that these kids actually listen to you and love you, and tell them, look, this music is just to get me out of my conditions. This is entertainment, but I want
Right.
you to live. Like, I
Yeah.
want, not only do I want you to live, I'm gonna put some money in investing that you live. Right? I
Right.
don't whatever I had to go through to survive. I don't never want you to go through that. So I
Right.
put my voice. I want to utilize my money. I want to utilize my opportunities. I want to see how do we change the reality. So whatever the reality that I had to go through to get to here, you never have to go through that.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm vocal about. Like, I understand music. I understand, the industry and what people have been, taught to glamorize and follow. But as each of us have a responsibility to save these babies, because
Absolutely.
if they're killing each other because they believe something that you said, if they believe
Right.
that what you said kill, so we're gonna kill, and you don't feel the need to fix that, then you're enemy of our community. You know what I'm saying? We
Absolutely.
can't support you. We can't allow you to bleed the community and kill a community for your own selfish gain. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what I'm very vocal about. I think the industry is is in a financial situation now where it can change the culture, right? It can shift
Right.
the culture. It can change these communities that these people come from. But there has to be somebody willing to stand up and say that has to be one of the goals. You know,
Yes.
we have to hold people accountable. We got to say, okay, you told us how many millions you made, and the kids from your community don't have a community center, right? The kids from your community is gonna have to shoot and kill somebody in order to get wherever you got. So how do
Right.
you change that? What are you doing? How are you going to use your platform, your voice, and your finances to change the reality for some kid that comes from where you come from? Are you going to go
Right.
back to those communities and invest in those communities? And I think that's where we are. I think
That's what we're missing too.
that's
A lot of that.
because there's nobody willing to hold anybody accountable. Everybody's
Right.
want to peacefully coexist and go along. And I just want to be next to you. I don't want to hold you accountable. I don't want you to tell you're going to tell me you're a billionaire, but the people that's where you from, there's nothing changed. How
Absolutely.
what have you done actually? So
Absolutely.
that's what I'm focused on in hip hop right now. I realize that we have to make loving each other and de-escalate situations cool again. We gotta completely reverse the culture. We got
Absolutely.
to show the dudes who is the peacemakers, they the heroes. Like, let's glorify them. Let's give them the same platforms and voices that you giving the people that's destroying the community, right? So give the people opportunity to choose who you want to follow.
Right. Because in our era, we had, it was
It
the
was a
hustler
balance.
rapper, but there was also the thought provoking rapper. Everybody had a style. So there was a variety of who you could relate to. It wasn't just one thing. You know what I'm saying? It was every rapper coming in speaking about their POV from life. You know what I'm saying? So you had a Black Thought, you had a Buster, you had a Jigga, you had a Nas to look at, you had an Eve. And then with all of this, there's always a story behind it. Eve could do, who's that girl, but she could also give you Love is Blind and talk about domestic violence. Missy could give you this, but she could also give you that. That's what we're missing. It's just one, everything is just focused on girls, get your body done and prostitute yourself and go date a baller. And then guys, you gotta, join a gang, you gotta shoot the op, you gotta spin the block, you gotta, take substances, you know what I'm saying? So it's like kind of like promoting substance abuse, promoting prostitution, promoting, it's just, that's the message that's being brainwashed to hip hop. And because it's working, it's selling, and there's money being generated, people's morals and values and everything just go out of the window because they're like, I'm willing to sell this smoke and mirrors message to the youth because they just see dollar signs. You know what
That's
I'm
right.
saying? So the money is like being dangled. It's like, listen, you want to get paid or you want to care, like which one you want to do. Oh, I want to get paid. They don't care. I want to clout chase. So
That's
it's just, yeah, it's crazy right now. That's for sure. um Another topic that has been going on, it's like a hot topic in the industry: rat culture. Every time you turn around, YSL, Troy Ave versus Tax Tone, T.I. versus Boosie, it's 6ix9ine. It's just every time we turn around, it's that's what's being talked about right now. What is your opinion on this rat culture of today? Do you
well,
feel like the morals and values of when we was growing up is outdated? Now it's every man for themselves, and or how do you feel like what's going on with everything?
I think it's impossible for morals and values to be outdated, right? I think
I agree.
I think what happened is weak individuals, want to ignore those morals, right? I think when you put somebody that's weak in a position of power, then they get to dictate what the culture looks like.
Right.
So that's what's happening. You got people who don't want to be held accountable, who are weak, who don't have the wherewithal or what I like to say, the testicular fortitude to stand up in situations and deal with whatever it is that they've done. So what they do is create new rules and say, "Oh, it's every man for himself. I ain't got to do that. I ain't gonna do that." That's stupid. But you want to be able to profit. You want to be celebrated. You want to be glamorized for this life quote unquote street life that you portray. You want people to, you want all the benefits that come with it. But then now when it's time for the accountability, you don't want that. You want everybody else to be accountable. You know what?
Right.
I'm gonna do this and then I'm gonna do that, so this person can be accountable, but I'm not trying to be, and that's the reality that people live in. So what you're seeing now is is you're seeing coward culture. Like I call it coward culture.
I
When you
yes, perfect
when
name.
cowards dictate the culture, then that's what it's going to be. When everybody keeps giving 6ix9ine a voice and a platform and to scream with pink hair in front of all these kids and say fuck that, I ain't going to jail and I'm gonna still be rich. That's right, I'm a rat and I'm this and that, and you make that voice prevalent. Then you start to see that that's what people think is real, right? If you keep giving him everybody, oh, I just want to interview him. I'm a journalist. No, what you're doing is lending your platform.
Right.
And not only are you lending your platform, you're lending your credibility to
Right.
who is
Because you're
accountable.
standing next to that.
Exactly.
Regardless if you say, I'm a journalist and, I want to interview this person, you're still giving them a voice and you're still standing next to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I could kind of understand. All right. So this is, take Tekashi out of it, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to talk about, like, let's say like Oprah or CNN, let's say Oprah decides that she wants to interview, let's say Jeffrey Dahmer was still alive, and she goes, and she interviews him. There's a difference between going on a platform that she works for to interview a serial killer, you know what I'm saying? And not to give him a voice. There's a difference between her. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to say. Oprah has her own network. So it's one thing to have him come to her house or to come to her network and her name is on that, as opposed to her doing a job for a company that is just kind of like neutral. So me personally, like, I feel like if your podcast is your personal thing or your radio show and it has your name on it and you're stamping something, you're going to be directly aligned with that person. You're not working for a company that I'm just on an assignment as a journalist writing for the Daily News or working for CNN and I'm just putting things out there and it's not really about the journalist. My name is like this small at the bottom of the article. No. In this day and age, you're bringing that person on your platform and you're sitting next to that. It's a difference. It's a difference, in my opinion.
It is, and it's also a difference because what Oprah's brand represents something different, right?
Right.
As a universal brand, right? She started out just doing interviews.
Right.
She never said this is what I stand for per se. You don't
right.
know what she stands for per se. There's no political, there's no certain views that are attached to Oprah, right? So what happens is a lot of these dudes who call themselves street dudes who've been elevated from the streets and certain principles and celebrated, they started these podcasts and they started these things based on that. Now they sit down with individuals who lack integrity, with individuals who have put people in prison who they claim to be friends with.
Right.
Right.
And you're not afraid to call it out. And I think people are mad about it.
And it's not everybody's fault. Some people, sometimes you miss it. Sometimes you're like, damn, I fucked up. But if you're not calling that person out, I'm not sitting down with an individual, right, that I know is not the same type of individual I am. We don't have any of the same moral integrity because I don't see, I already know why you told. I don't have to do an interview with 6ix9ine for him to tell me why he told. You told because you're weak and you didn't want to go to jail.
And you wanted to save yourself.
And you want to save yourself. You're going to figure out ways to justify that. I'm not giving you the platform to justify that. If somebody else cares about why you told it, let them do the interview. There's no need. They called me first. Yo, I could get you an interview with 6ix9ine. Before he did any interview, yo, you want to interview 6ix9ine? He wants you to, me? Why would I interview?
That doesn't make sense. It wouldn't, it's not even like, no.
What would I want to know? I know why he told. I don't know. I don't like his music. I don't like the way he conducts himself. It's nothing about him that I like. So I would be doing it just because I want to clout chase, because I know people would pay attention and look at it. But then I'll be lending my level of credibility to somebody that I don't respect at all. And I think journalistic integrity has to have a play, right?
Yes.
You have to say to yourself, if I bring somebody on my stage that I'm completely against, then my job is to completely dispel all the shit you say And then at the end of it, let them know that I don't respect you at all, and be totally honest with it. But if you just sit up there and you trying to be, this neutral person, and I'm just being a journalist, I'm gonna ask you questions, I'm gonna let you answer, and I'm not disputing that shit. I'm not calling bullshit every time you say some bullshit, and I'm not.
Right.
Then you what you're doing is capitulating, to whatever's going on. I don't see that as something that's integral.
Helpful.
I don't see it as helpful. I don't see it as something that I would see people that I say have integrity. So
Right.
I don't want to be attached to anything like that. And I think that's what happened with coward culture. Coward culture became so prevalent that dudes like, damn, all of the dudes that's so-called famous is cowards. And if we don't interview them, then we might as well not interview them, because we want to be in the in crowd with the cowards, because they getting the bag right now. So
Right.
we got to give them a platform, and that's what they figured that out. Nobody is shunning the coward. Nobody's like, oh no, we can't fuck with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what's happening. They're being celebrated. People feel like, they getting views. This person getting views. This person, you
It's
know,
all for the views. It's
all for
all for the views.
so that's what we are, man. Hopefully, you know,
Do you think that we're a slave to the views in this day and age?
we definitely are. Everybody's a slave to the views. They don't even care if it's. I remember that used to be a saying back in the day. They don't care if good publicity or bad publicity. It don't matter. It's still publicity, and that shit is taking on its own life now.
Right.
Would do anything. They will
Right.
say anything. They will say people who aren't LGBT and say they're gay one day just to score spicy. They'll do shit just to get some views.
Cloud
They'll,
chase.
they'll, they'll
The
attach
views.
themselves to things that they don't even align with just for views. And
Right.
I've never understood that. But that's
Same.
what they are. They will completely align themselves to some shit, and then wonder why they got the backlash and have to deal with the shit that comes with aligning themselves to some shit that they don't even agree with. No, for me, I know I can sleep good at night because
Right.
whatever I say, whoever I stand next to, I 100%
Right.
and I believe in what they say. Whether you agree with me or not, I'm good because I agree.
That's a fact. That's a fact. You can't, got to be careful because the views are like a drug and people will do anything for those views. And for me, I'm just not going to sell myself out. If my morals and values don't align with what it is, I'm not going to be messy for the views. I'm not going to be clickbait for the views. People will say anything, do anything for the views. That is where we are right now. That's the currency. They need those views, and they're just willing to say anything and do anything. Speaking of which, we just going to talk about this real quick, and then I have like one or two games I want to play with you, and then I'm not going to keep you here all night. I know you got things to do. I wanted to talk to you about, speaking of cloud chasing, let's talk about the app Clubhouse. But before we get into that, shout out to DWI, and shout out to my bro Ghost. He definitely connected us on Clubhouse. So shout to them. Something great came out of Clubhouse because I got to connect with some dope people. But tell me your opinions on the app.
I think there are certain spaces like DWI spaces, certain rooms in there that you can go into where you get educated, and you meet like minds, and you have good conversations. Like we had on when I was on there, we had a lot of good conversations, and we build.
Yep.
We were building, but I think overall it's become a cesspool of people who just want to be known.
Mm-hmm.
And they come in there with the worst type of energy, the worst type of shit. It's just trying to feed. They create rooms that just a clickbait,
Right.
just say anybody's name, just to say the worst shit, just so anybody can come in and see what's going on.
For clout and views, so they can stream it on YouTube and other platforms and just get the views.
It's dangerous because you can't fact check these
Right.
people. Most people don't fact check. They don't know who they talking to. These people call themselves big gun this and
right.
and everybody's the biggest this, and they the biggest person from their town, and then they really nobody, and nobody is fact checking. They just say what they hear on Clubhouse, and it's, for me, it became detrimental. I was arguing with people that I normally wouldn't even talk to. Like, how am
because they were coming at you for clout. I mean,
yeah,
we had a really big room that I moderated with you and Whack, where you spoke out about rap culture and what you felt about certain situations. People didn't like it. They said what they had to say, but I feel like what drives a lot of people of substance off the app, and particularly celebrities, is you coming on there for what? To get stoned and then have a whole bunch of people congregate in a room just to watch someone get stoned, just for views, for clout, for clickbait. Like, that's what I don't agree with about the app. You know what I'm saying? Like, things like that, where if it's going to be a productive conversation that's going to have some type of resolution and some type of something that you can get out of it that's moderated properly and bringing the conversation forward, fine. But if it's just going to be a whole bunch of mess, what's the point? But I'm talking too much. You tell me about your
no,
opinion on it.
you're right. It's it's oversaturated with negativity and people who don't have anything else to do but troll. You know, a lot of these people are on the app. Like, it's rooms that are literally sit open for like 17 to 18 hours, where people just like, it's no way I could be on the app for
Right.
17 hours. It's just no way. I have way too many things to do
To
in life
do.
as an
Right.
adult man to be on one app for 18 hours. It's unheard of to me. So I understand that if anybody who can do that, we're not even in the same realm. Our realities is completely different. So I'm engaging with somebody whose reality is so different and far off from mine.
The mentality, the emotional IQ is just not even the same.
Yeah, we not in the same ballpark. So I don't
Yeah.
have against you, but it's nothing for us to do. Like, you play Parcheesi, and 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 I do civil rights work. I
Right.
it doesn't add up.
Yeah. So
You
speaking of trolls, and making, Charleston White, he's been making a lot of noise on Clubhouse. You've been vocal about your opinions on his stance and his content. What do you think? What is your opinions on that? Do you think that Clubhouse is just a place for people to just pop off, make a name for themselves, and then monetize their content other places? Like, what do you think about that?
But literally, that's what Charleston White said. The thing about Charleston White, right, is that he's not ignorant. He's very smart. He's intentionally doing these things. Like, he has whole conversations where he said, if Wack could get clout, a nigga that don't know nothing, he can go up there and say the worst shit ever. Then I know I could go in there. This is who y'all listening to. I know I can say the most detrimental, foulest shit, and you gonna pay attention. You gonna keep on. The worse shit I say, the more people gonna follow me.
I
And he
never
said,
understood that. Like,
he said it. I see something on YouTube where he said it. He broke down what his whole mindset was. I'm gonna come
right.
there and say the worst shit possible. I'm gonna say fuck somebody's mother. I'm gonna talk about rape. I'm gonna talk about all of the worst shit of the culture ever, and y'all gonna follow me because it's gonna entertain you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who he is, and that's also somebody who lacks character integrity.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do anything and
For
say
clout.
for clout, then that's who you are. And you can't be the person like that because they don't have shame. They don't care what you think. None of that. So anybody trying to go back and forth with Charleston White is wasting their time.
This is how I make sense of things that are happening now, because, when you see things like that, the Charleston Whites, or, YouTubers screaming in their camera, it reminds me a lot of wrestling and people coming at you, people coming at this one, that one, and this whole clout chasing era. This is what I always I tell myself this. Well, I don't have to tell myself this because it's already ingrained in me, but I like to say this when I'm on a public platform and speaking to anyone. Would you rather have attention, or would you rather have respect? To me personally, I would rather have respect. If you continue to hold on to your morals and values, it may take longer to get to where you want to go than that fast microwave attention. But where is that person that's selling out and cloud chasing and getting that quick fix of attention? Where are they going to be in the future? So think to yourself, you rather have respect or you rather have attention? For me, I'd rather have respect. So, you just got to, some people don't care about that. They just
You
want
know,
the attention.
most of these people we live in with, Angie, they just want attention. They don't give a fuck if you respect them, like them, Nothing. They just want attention, which somehow they can try to monetize the attention,
Right.
and that's it. They don't care what category you put them in. They just happy to be here. Whatever they got to get here, they're gonna do it. You
Right.
know. And
And you can still be monetized with holding on to your morals and values and having that respect. It's just going to take longer, but you get to hold on to who you are and you get to have that respect when you finally do get what you want, you know? So
that's our
it's
mentality, Angie. But it's not these people's mentality. They don't see that.
right,
They don't see it being because it's not amplified and celebrated. Right? The people that they see it being celebrated is the Charleston White. They see those people. So somebody says Charleston White took 6ix9ine's strategy and said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do it worse. I'm smarter than him. I'm gonna say some shit that's even worse than what he's saying." And they all just taking the same formula,
right.
you know.
So let me ask you this quick question, right? How do you handle people saying your name just to get a response? How do you handle holding, because with you probably got a lot on your shoulders because, well, I know you do, because you're sticking to your morals, your values, you're doing all the you do the activism. You have people calling you out, taking shots, judging you for things, wanting you to respond, because we're in this cloud chasing era. Like, how do you handle all of that pressure? Like, you just out here trying to do something good, but there's people out there that just want to criticize everything you do, say your name just to, get that quick attention from you so they can monetize. Because when you really think about it, like, do these people really hate my son? Do they really hate each other, or are they just doing this for attention? How do you handle where we at right now with that, and having and being where and still trying to stay focused on your mission?
I've watched. It's been a process, right? Because my name is pretty much everything for me. Like I come from poverty, all the things you could think of, but my name has always hold weight as somebody who's been honorable with integrity. So when you start trying to defend my name, that's something that I'm gonna try to protect. At this stage, I realized that the people that matter already know,
Right.
right? I'll go on the internet to see 5 or 6 comments where they saying this, or I'll see a YouTube video and they saying this. But anytime I walk in the streets anywhere within this world, there's nothing but love and respect. So you start saying
Right.
to yourself, this internet is a myth. It's not
Yeah.
real. Half of you people don't even exist. And if
That's so true.
you don't really exist in my world. Nothing that y'all say or do on this internet can negatively affect me. Right? It's done nothing. I'm continuing to grow.
Right.
Despite all the people that come up here with the negative shit, I'm constantly growing and growing within what I'm doing. Right? So, and I watch Jay-Z. I watch some of the greats. Jay-Z does not respond to you. I don't give a fuck what they say about Jay, and he continues to break barriers.
I
He
was just saying that yesterday. I said those exact words yesterday to DWI. I literally said that to him yesterday. It's so crazy.
he's just made another billion, another deal. He's getting people free out of prison. He's creating all type of mechanisms and shit that's changing lives. And y'all on the internet talking about this man all day, and he won't ever say a word to you for nothing. So it's like, wow, when you get to that level of understanding and patience, right, and realize that social media and all this shit is a platform and is a tool that you can use for you. And
Right.
with any level of success, there comes negativity, right? And you can't feed into that shit because it's really not. It doesn't matter. It's people that don't like you everywhere, right? But the reality of the situation, those people are not going to outweigh, especially when you're a good person and you're somebody of good character, they're not going to outweigh the people that love you. So you
Right.
got to put your head down and just keep, every now and then, if I get bored, I might respond to somebody that says some negative shit and shut them down. But for the
Right.
most part, that's not even a focus of mine no more.
I
I'm
love that.
I'm gonna continue to build with the people that come here to learn, to come here to build with me, and just keep building with your village. The rest of them people, they exist. You never gonna change a hater's mind. I don't give a fuck what you. You could be the biggest this and that. They're gonna say, well, his shoes wasn't tied.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't care how many awards he did. I don't care how many people's lives he saved. his shoes wasn't tied.
Yep. When you get to a point in your life that you do not care, like you, it's always going to be somebody that don't like you, always going to be somebody with something to say. You just got to get to the point. You don't care who like you, who don't. You're not people pleasing. Like Jada said, the love overpower the hate by twos. I have a friend who is very successful online, right? And she's like, she said the same thing as you. She's like, it's so crazy. She's like, I see all these online platforms and forums about me, all these hate groups about me. It seems so much like people hate me, but then when I go out in the world, I get so much love from fans and supporters. So she got to keep reminding herself what she see on the internet is not real.
Not. It's not
It's
real.
a myth.
It's a mess. I'm telling you. And what happens is you got to keep convincing your people around you that it's a myth. Because they
Right.
start getting confused because they get mad for you. It's like, yo. But then they be like, damn, when we go out, everywhere you go, it's nothing but love. I don't care.
Yeah.
Country, state, people like, yo, I love what you do, this and that. I can't worry about a troll on Instagram.
Yeah. Small thing to a giant. So that's y'all heard it here. You know what I'm saying? From the desk of Mysonne. So let me ask you before we get into this game, what advice would you give? Because there's a lot of people that look up to you, listen to you. You've been through a lot. You've done a lot of work. You know, you can hear it. You know, just in the way you speak, how you've done so much work on yourself and you've been through so much and you're so enlightened. What advice would you give to up and coming creators? And I say creators now because it's not even just a box in for rappers. Any creators, online creators, podcast creators, rappers, anyone that wants to create in 2023, what would be one thing that you would tell them?
Be original, man, and trust you, right? Just be you, because
Mm-hmm.
there's everybody else is taken, right? I don't give a fuck who you watching and you looking and you see somebody else win doing what they doing. They're winning because they're them, right? You can't do them. I don't give a fuck what rendition you give, but you can't sell them better than they can sell them. Just like nobody can sell you better than you can sell you. So if you are constantly you, you're building an organic and a real fan base of people that fuck with you. You don't
Right.
got to try to do nothing different. You don't got to try to. You just always got to be you. Even if you add different elements, always make sure it's you. It doesn't go far from who it is that you represent. I think a lot of people get so caught up in trends.
Right.
Don't follow the trend, set the trend. Be the new trend. Always be innovative and think, what's gonna be the new trend? Okay, they on that now, that's cool.
You
What
on that? I'm on this.
I'm on this. You know what I'm saying? Always give people alternative. Be the alternative to the trend.
I love that. That is such great advice from you, my son. And tell us what's in the future for you. What are you most excited about? I love to ask this question to my guests. What are you excited about in 2023, 2024 in the
I
future?
think what I'm excited about is I'm really intentional on shifting this culture, right? I think everything, when you could go through our history, there's always been shifts in what was trendy and what was popular and what, you know, like we talk about how we grew up and how integrity and respect and all those things. And I want to be instrumental in shifting it back to that.
Mm,
Right? I think it's time. I think like I'm even starting you seeing dudes with baggy clothes again, the tight like it's time to shift the culture to where we start respecting and celebrating individuals of high moral caliber, right?
yes.
That's what I'm excited. I'm excited because I hear that a lot. I'm seeing people want that, and I want to I'm trying to build that mechanism and build that voice and create that next trend. With Boycott Black Murder, it's us standing up for our women, us respecting women. I have the new book that's going to be coming out called Raising Kings, which we
I
talk
love that.
12 principles of manhood and what because a lot of these kids have been taught manhood is something that is not. And there are principles of manhood. So we want you to identify what those principles are. We want you to take those and encompass that and put it into your daily living. So we're going to re-raising the next generation of what men and women look like. And we're making, respect and honor and de-escalation and all of those things and protecting our communities and making sure our women are safe and our kids are safe. We're making that the next trend, especially for men in our community. So I'm really excited about being on the forefront of that movement and leading in that space with that, with that heart in that mind state. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I love that. We definitely appreciate you. You are definitely an example, an epitome of what a real man is, and the message that you're putting out here and what you stand for. Keep doing, keep going, keep doing it. Don't listen to nobody. Continue to stay focused, and it's like I can't give you enough flowers. Honestly, I really can't. I have one more question for you before we get into this quick game. What do you do for fun that people don't know about you, or what's one thing people don't know about you? They know the activism. They know, like, do you have maybe a hobby? Do you cook? Do you just one thing that people might be like, oh, I didn't know that about my son?
I love chess. I love to play
Love
chess.
chess. I
Um,
don't know how to play chess. Gotta learn how to play that. It looks fun.
it
What
is.
was that? There was that movie. Did you see that Netflix special about that girl who played chess? She
No,
had the red hair. It
no.
was, yeah, I gotta, if y'all listening, put it in the comments what it was. But it was this dope, it was like number one on Netflix, and it was a true story, I think, too. And this was like last year. And it was about a girl who played chess, and it was just her story and how she came up and stuff like that, and all the adversity she went through. I'll tell you what it's called, but I know she had red hair. I forgot what it was called, but that's dope. So you play chess.
I love chess. What else? Um, I like to swim.
Swimming is dope.
Yeah, it's one of those are things I like. I like walking. Like that's one of the things I do a lot. Like I drive a lot, but I like to walk. I used to just like pacing. I used to get up at 2 or 3 in the morning and just walk for 10 blocks and just walk around.
Yeah.
Just to get clarity in my thoughts. So those.
Love that. So those are some things that y'all might not have known about Mysonne, some fun facts. Um, Thank you so much for this interview. For this sit down talk. It didn't even feel like an interview for me. It's not an interview. It's just sitting down, talking with individuals that I feel like have done things in their life to uplift, empower, and inspire the people. And that's the message that I want to give on my platform. And thank you so much for your time. Before you get out of here, I want to play a little game. I play a game with my guest called Red Flag and Deal Breaker. So I'm gonna give you like a hypothetical, and you tell me. We're switching gears a little bit. You tell me if that's a red flag or a deal breaker for you. And then I play this other game called This or That, but we'll get into it real quick. All right, so you go out on a date with a girl, right? And this is just hypothetical, just hypothetical. You go out on a date with a girl and she's rude to service workers. Is that a red flag or a deal breaker for you?
It's a red flag.
Red flag. Okay. Why not a deal breaker?
Because a lot of times people have been taught the wrong things, right? So if you go out on a date with a girl and she's rude, then sometimes you got to educate on why not to be rude, right? Sometimes you got to
My son got the patience. He's not going to just blow you off.
What is my job as a man if I can't help you evolve in your mentality? You might think it's cool. You might have been around dudes who was rude, who taught you that. So sometimes
Right.
you got to unlearn and unteach and reteach somebody, especially if you think they're worthy of that.
Got it. So that's going to be a red flag for my son. He's not going to clip you. Oh, I lost my son. One more time. He might have got a phone call. Are you there?
Yeah.
All right. The girl invites you back to her house and is super filthy. Is that a red flag or a deal breaker?
Oh, that's a deal breaker. I don't do filth at all.
He said, "Oh, nope, you clip. You out of here, shorty."
No
All right.
filth.
The girl is still good friends with her ex. Is that a red flag, a deal breaker for you?
It's a red flag because it's a lot. Me and my son's mother are really cool, and we don't have any relationship like that, so it's not a deal breaker.
Good. All right. The person hates texting, and you dating a girl is going good, right? But she hates texting and she refuses to do it. Is that a red flag or a deal breaker for you?
I don't know if it's either. I mean, I would express it to her like, you know what? So if she doesn't even respond back to your text messages.
Yeah, she hates texting and refuses to do it. She wants you to call her all the time.
I don't know. That's kind of weird. So she's
I
not.
agree.
Okay.
I agree. All right. So the girl tells you that she's into polyamory. Is that a red flag or a deal breaker for you? That's the lifestyle she's into.
I mean, I don't know. Listen, I'm open to different things in this era, man. So I
He
don't
said
know
in this era.
because listen, polyamory might be the way. You know? It might be the way, man. If so, I can't. I don't know. I might have to. We might have a deeper conversation, actually.
Okay, so she's not clipped if she's into that. All right. She smokes weed all the time. Red
No,
flag, deal
that's
breaker.
that's a deal breaker. You just can't be. I don't want no woman that just smoke weed all day.
Yeah, she's clipped. I feel
Yeah,
you on that.
because I don't smoke weed at all. So
Yeah, I
can't
can't
trust.
do excessive weed smoking, excessive drinking. You clipped. Can't
Yeah.
do it. I'm with my son on that. All right. She has bad vocabulary. Red flag, deal breaker.
Red flag, because once again, I'm gonna help you with your vocabulary.
That could be taught.
Yeah, I could teach you those things.
All right. Last red flag or deal breaker. She's vegan. Red flag or deal breaker.
No, that's none. I need to get to vegan. I actually need to get there. So that's somebody that might push me to. I'm pescatarian right now, so I might need somebody to push me to vegan.
Shout out to the pescatarians. I've been pescatarian since November 18th, 2010. So it's been like 13 years. And lately I've been thinking I want to stop eating fish now too. I don't eat fish every day, but I don't know. But shout out to the pescatarians, the vegans, and the meat eaters too, but can't relate to y'all. All right. So this game is called This or That, right? I'm going to just fire some stuff at you and you just tell me which one. Podcasting or writing?
Podcasting.
All right. Sunrises or sunsets?
Sunrises.
Life after death or reasonable doubt?
Life after death. Even though
All right.
without, but life after death. Yeah. Because it's a big
Same.
ass project. I can't.
Same. Players Club or Friday?
Players Club.
You know what's so crazy? I said
Most people
Players
say
Club too, but most people say Friday.
I know that. But I love Players Club.
Politics or music?
Music.
Okay. Reading or writing?
Writing.
Comedy or horror?
Comedy.
Greece or Italy?
Italy.
Yes, you said the right thing. But shout out to my Greek people, but Italian people in the house right here. Scarface or Godfather?
Scarface.
All right. Skilled at a number of things or hone in on one skill and become an expert.
Skilled at a number of things.
All right. Give up your phone or your computer.
Computer.
Death by fire or death by shark attack?
Sheesh.
I know. I have to throw that in there. They both stuck.
Shark. I take the shark. I don't want to burn. I hate.
That's what I was thinking too. It'd probably be over quicker with the shark.
Yeah.
All right. Would you rather be 90 years old your entire life or 7 years old?
90.
All right. Would you rather be stuck on an island alone for 1 year or lost in the deep, deep woods with barely any sunlight for 1 year?
Island.
I'm taking the island too because I'm scared of the woods. That was the last question that I had for you. Once again, Mysonne, thank you so much for joining me, for coming to Angie's World podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was super fun. Is there anything that you want to tell the people before you get up out of here? Anything you want to say? Where they could follow you?
Yes, just follow me on on Instagram at Mysonne NY General. Go watch the podcast, Street Politicians.
Make sure you do that.
Sit downs with the stand-ups and follow Angie, man. Angie's doing her thing. I love the way you rep the culture, the authenticity that you have.
Thank you.
I support you.
Thank you so much, Mysonne. Thank you so much for supporting the pod, y'all. Make sure y'all check out Mysonne. He got the children's book out on Amazon. He got the podcast going with Tamika Mallory. You could catch him out there, in the streets. not protesting, but definitely standing up for something that needs to be stood up for at any time of the year. He shows up for the people. We want to give my son his flowers here. Make sure y'all follow him. Tell him I sent you. Shout out to Facebook, Twitter. Follow me on Clubhouse at Angie's World, at Angie's World Podcast on Instagram. Like I always say, you could be anywhere in the world, but you decided to be in Angie's World. And for that, I love you. Mysonne, don't go nowhere. My name is Angie, aka Angie's World. That's Mysonne, and we out of here, y'all. Deuces.